Welcome to my headset bearing tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to be changing out the stock Crazy Cart headset bearing, which is horrible and will basically give you insane speed wobble, or you'll tighten it so much that you won't even be able to turn the wheel. So you're going to be upgrading it with this set right here, which is called I think it's called whatever it's called, it's in the description. And these are the tools you're going to need today. You're going to need a hammer with a block of wood so that you don't damage anything that you don't need to damage, a screwdriver, a small flathead, and I got this kit I think for $1 at the dollar store. That's for pulling out some connectors. You're going to need 3 Allen wrench sizes, 4mm, 5mm, and 6mm. You're going to need something to cut the zip ties holding your wires to the frame, which will not appear in this video because I don't have any, because I've modified mine. And you're going to need a wrench to tighten and loosen the bolts, the nuts at the end of the headset. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is remove the steering wheel, and this will be with the 6mm Allen wrench. Now, your instincts may be that you'll need to loosen this a lot and turn it a whole lot. You don't. You only need to loosen it, and it should pull straight up, which it does. And if you've not done this before, I'll explain how this works. The way that this works is it basically expands inside the bar so that as you turn this key, it applies more and more pressure to the bar. It's a brilliant system. But that's why you only need to loosen it a little bit, because you're only letting that pressure off. All right, now we've got that off. Then we're gonna have to loosen this headset right here. So what you can do is you can rotate this to lock until it locks like that. And that way when you turn it loose, it's not going to turn anymore. This one is real easy. You just loosen that up. Come on, quite a ways. All right, and then that's off. And then these are the crappy bearings inside. I'll explain later why this makes such a big difference. Let's move to the rest, because you won't be able to pull this out until you take the wires out of your controller. Normally you'll have 2 batteries here. I've got a custom battery set built up that I made, so I've got 1 spare battery here to represent the 2 batteries. This is a wing nut here. You'll want to loosen that, and this will fall out. All right, you just set those to the side. As soon as I find that part, well, actually, you know what I actually did is, let's see. I just said actually twice. Here's your 5mm. Let's go to this side over here. And you'll just loosen this over and over again. And that will come out. Once you have this out, you can pull this thing out. And I just keep them together like this. I just put this wing nut back on here. And I keep this, I will put back in here so I don't lose it. Oops. And then I'll take the battery out. Oh, and there goes the battery. Now you'll have to disconnect it from the controller, but like I said, I don't have that disconnected. Then what you will see is now this will be exactly what you see on the stock controller right here, which will be coming from the controller. You'll have this blue and yellow wire, and going to the motor is the black and red. You're going to want to unclip this connector. With that disconnected, in order to get, so you're probably going to have some zip ties through this hole right here. You're going to have to snip that so that you can actually pull the cable out. But you'll find out that even after you do that, you can't pull the cable out because this connector is too big to fit through this passageway. So what you're going to want to do is remove the connector. Where are we at here? Right there. You're going to want to remove that connector. So that's what your little screwdriver here is for. If you look inside there, you may be able to see that each one of these metal tabs has a little flap on the side of it. We're going to use this screwdriver to depress those flaps, and that will allow us to pull the metal tab out, and they will just be able to pass through that channel. So let's do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull the top one first. Remember, the top one is black. Okay, that's negative. We're going to put some pulling pressure with our fingers right here, so that as we get this loose, it kind of backs off. So I'm going to put my flathead in there. I see the little tab. I'm going to put pressure on that, and now it's loose and it slides right out. Okay, if you can't get it the first time, just keep trying. It's a little tricky. You got to make sure that your flathead is narrow enough to fit inside this plastic channel in here. Got that top one done. We're going to do the bottom one here. All right. Now that snap was not me doing it right. That was my screwdriver just moving around. Now I've got these both out from the connector. Just going to set that connector down there. And then what we can do is pull these wires out. Of this channel. Now, what that allows us to do is actually pull the entire fork out. So the good thing about this crazy cart is if you've got your stock little pegs on the front, once you pull this out like that, it will just set right down like that. Now I've got wheels installed so it still moves. Let's look down in here. There's a lip on each one of these bearings, and you can just hammer that right out. So let's do that. I had already had this taken out with the new bearing in, and I just replaced this just to make this video. So I hope you're grateful, and I hope it helps. This is super simple. This lines up with that lip. We're just gonna switch sides a little at a time. Boom, falls right out. No problem. Let's do it into the top. So there's a lip in the top. It's slowly coming. And there she goes. That was super simple. So there is a harder part coming up, which is why I wanted to make this video in the first place. Let's get these out of the way. This little bugger right here is on tight, and it is a pain in the butt to do. But you got to do it. So we're going to attack it the same way. We don't want to go long ways like this because we can't get the same upward angle on the screwdriver. This short side allows us the best upward angle. So we're just going to... I'm pushing in and down at the same time. So I'm going down in force and this way in force. A little at a time. And I'm going to rotate it. There she goes. She's coming loose. Now I will tell you, this is easier the second time because I didn't hammer this thing on as hard as it was actually on there. I don't want to go through that again. But the idea is be patient with it, be careful. Well, I don't know how careful you got to be because the first one was so stubborn for me and I didn't really know what I was doing that I ended up cutting it off with my wheel, my grinder wheel. The hardest part is finished. So this piece right here goes on the bottom. The little groove here goes up. This side goes up. You just slide that down. Boom. Very simple. This piece here goes, how does it go? I think I just forgot. I think it goes like this. Yeah, oh, okay. It goes like this onto that. And oh, it's beautiful, huh? Nice and rolly. Now this will actually bang up into the bottom. So we're actually gonna do that first. We're gonna bang these pieces in, and I'll show you that. We're gonna take one of these, and I guess they're basically identical. They're identical, so it doesn't matter whether you use either side for the top or the bottom. And I've actually got gouge marks in this now because this is super soft aluminum, and I used this wrench to pry it up, and that was really dumb because I didn't realize how light and soft this was. So don't do that. Anyhow, you can just put it right down in here. And I am going to grab my piece of wood and a hammer, and it should just go right on in there. Like a glove, beautiful. That's the top part. So now this piece here, this is the other one, and it will fit right up under here. Let's see if we can hand press it a little bit. Yep, it'll hand press a little. And then we can, you know what? Yeah, we can do this. And yeah, that's okay that the bearing fell out. It was in there loose to begin with. So what you want to notice though is that there's a beveled edge on this bearing. Remember that it goes in like this, because it's beveled on the inside, so you put the beveled part of the bearing in there. So I'm just gonna drop that bearing down in here. And at this point, we can put the fork back on. Okay, so what you wanna pay attention to when you're putting this fork back on, you wanna make sure the bar is in the back, because that means this is the front. Hopefully you can see what I just said. We'll lift this up and lower it back down in there. Perfect, perfect. Be careful to line it up. There you go, perfect, it's in there. That's how you do it. Now from the top side, well, you'll want to feed this back in through your little channel. Over here. All right. Now the thing is, I don't have that channel because I cut mine away. Or do I? Where is it at? Nope. Yeah, I do have it. I do have the front part of it, but I cut some of it off in the back. I should have filmed from this angle before moving. There. So now what I do, you want to turn your lock all the way to the left so that without any real tension, enough of your cable comes out for that distance. And then zip tie that right there. Now this is super important, okay? That it goes in this order and you do not miss any parts, because otherwise you will tighten this thing and it will not have free play in it. It will be tight and you will wonder what happened. This beveled piece right here drops down on top right here. And you can wiggle this around. So there's that. And then this part drops down on top of that. However, there's a tiny little thin washer ring. Very thin. If you're missing this, it will be too tight and it will not work. Because what will happen is the pressure of this will not spread out straight down. It will spread differently and provide friction. So we want to put this on next. It's got a nice little rubber seal in it. And then we have our big thick washer. and then our finishing nut here. Now this is cool because it's very different than the last one. So now that I've got it on here, and we're going to be tightening it this way, we're going to rotate it to lock so that we're not fighting anything. And we're going to grab our wrench and we're going to tighten the crap out of it. Nice and tight, because it might feel tight to you, but you'll still get speed wobble, especially if you're on a pneumatic tire. So, well, I can just keep going in a circle here, assuming I don't strip this thing. I'm not saying be Hulk on it, but you want it tight. That's pretty tight. Actually, right now I got it flush. Let's check and see how loose it is. Honestly, that's just a hair too, maybe it's a hair too tight, maybe. I'm gonna leave it like that. You can back off of it a little bit, but if you find yourself getting some speed wobble, it's probably because this needs to be tighter. So now we're gonna put our steering wheel back on. Make sure your peg here is in the back. Put your wheel straight. Take your arrow and line it up. Drop it in. Boom. Take your 6mm and tighten. Now we are not done yet, because you got to remember, we took these out. So they need to go back in, and there's a little bit of a process to that depending on whether you crushed these little plates or not. If I turn this sideways, it looks pretty flat, don't it? And that's because this little flap here, if you will show up, this little flap here has been flattened. So I'm just gonna take my little screwdriver underneath it, and I'm gonna pry it to where it's standing up again. Now if I turn it sideways, you can see that it's standing up. That's going to make sure it clicks in and does not come back out. It's like a fish hook. Little connector fish hook. We're going to do that with this one here too. God forbid you focus. Let's give it something to focus on here. My hand. There we go. Now both of those. Now remember, black was on top. So we're going to take our connector right here, and the black is going to slide right up in the top. Now, here's the thing you got to remember. If you look in there, come on, buddy. Do you see the space for the little flap to click in? So the black on top, you need to have it flat with the flap on the bottom. The little metal flap needs to be on the bottom, if that makes sense, like this. So it needs to go in here just like this. You might hear it click. There it goes. Very, very faint click. And boom. Now it won't pull out. So we're good there. Same thing with the red one. The red is facing to the right. The little flap is facing that way. So just put it in there like that. There she goes. Neither one of those will come out. And that's it. Really. Now it's up to you to put your batteries back in and put your little support bracket on. However you have your thing done, just undo what you did before and you will be done, and you will have a sweet new headset bearing with 0 speed wobble. Thank you very much.